Hello everyone, and welcome to the Pacechester Post News Recap. I'm your host, Quadir Ray, soon to be joined by my colleagues Sophia Torrio and Andrew Martinez. Tonight, we look back at the wild news cycle in Pacechester during the past 8 weeks. Join us in this recap, which will include, among other things, some of our past interviews with a few of the most well-known names in the Pacechester community. First off, we will start with the infamous Craig Scott case. Scott, former top aide to Mayor Andrade, was arrested on September 26th in the parking lot of Ampezetta for reckless driving. After news of his arrest broke, the mayor initially supported Scott and left the option open for him to return to the mayor's office. However, he was fired a month later for issues we will discuss later on in the program. The Pacechester Coalition eventually got involved in the investigation, and throughout the process, they proposed in-car ignition interlock systems in an effort to prevent drunk driving. Check out Andrew's news report on the coalition's proposal.
Good afternoon, I'm Sophia Torrio of the Pacechester Post with breaking news following the press conference held by Sean Brown, spokesperson of the Pacechester Coalition, regarding reckless and drunk driving in the Pacechester community. Pacechester Post's Andrew Martinez is reporting to us live outside of the conference room.
Hi, I'm Andrew Martinez with Pacechester Post. We are reporting to you live following the press conference held by the Pacechester Coalition, where they revealed their plan to implement in-car ignition interlocks and in-car breathalyzer tests to help limit the amount of drunk driving incidents that occur in Pacechester. Sean Brown, the spokesperson for the coalition, says that they are planning to work with MAD and DAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving and Dads Against Drunk Driving, to help raise awareness and help prevent the amount of drunk driving incidents in Pacechester. Andrew with the Pacechester Post. We're here interviewing Ravi Orla on Pacechester Coalition's plans to implement in-car breathalyzer tests and ignition interlock systems into every car around Pacechester. How do you feel about that?
I feel like this is a very unique and needed design. See, what I see is many young athletes coming out from parties, drinking heavily, going to the car, getting into a crash, killing people and messing up their entire college career. I feel like this is the design that can save many lives and it's really needed around this area.
Okay, so you would be willing to implement this into your own car?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it in my own car. This could even save my life and the people around me and prevent me from getting into some serious accidents.
We'll get back to the Craig Scott incident later on in the program, but now we'll like to move on to another issue in Pacechester that sparked much debate. The Board of Chosen Freeholders of Mortola County proposed to ban the sale of alcoholic beverages in all towns in the county, which includes Pacechester. Before the referendum was voted on, I sat down with Ampezetta's spokesperson, Nick D'Antoni, who said a ban on the sale of alcoholic beverages would destroy small businesses. Just overall, how do you think this press conference went?
I think it went well. I think we clearly were able to state our stance, and we hope that alcoholic beverages are not banned in Pacechester.
Now, you were asked a couple of tough questions about how important alcohol really is to you, to the organization, to your company.
Yes.
Exactly. Can you clarify exactly how much of sales is it? Like how much profit comes in with the sale of alcohol?
A decent amount, not nearly as much as pizza. As we were saying before, I do not believe, and I do not hope that alcoholic beverages are banned here. But if they are, we do have a plan to change our whole entire strategy, and we will be able to make our adjustments to continue to have success in the Pacechester community.
Okay, thank you for your time.
No problem. Have a wonderful day.
The referendum was held on October 20th, and residents, by a margin of just 2%, voted to ban the sale of alcohol in Mortola County. The reaction to the ban sparked outrage throughout the community, including a bizarre incident in which former Sheriff Deputy Christopher Knockett worked with Pacechester Liberty's Juliana Schuyler to distribute beer as an act of protest. The beer, which was brewed in Knockett's bathtub, turned out to be tainted. Here's a snippet of my interview with Knockett on the incident before he was suspended indefinitely. First question is, whose idea was it to just do it in your bathtub?
The bathtub was just sort of an ad hoc solution because we couldn't get our hands on alcohol. You know, it was pretty tough to get things in from out of state, bootleg style. The whole reason we went about this is because when they passed this legislature, they didn't stop to consider the Constitution. This country's already tried prohibition once to disastrous results, and it seems as though that repeated. We were not the only operation, I'm sure, that was making illegal alcohol for distribution.
Why didn't you import the alcohol from another county?
As I said before, just logistics, it was too tough. People were looking at things like that very closely, whereas, looking within, and we had this absence of alcohol, it was very easy to create. The fact that it came out brewed incorrectly the first time was, that's a beginner's mistake and is entirely my fault. But the point of this is people want it. This legislation was passed without giving full consideration to the desires of the public at large. I heard it was a very narrow win. So, yeah.
Now, you are the deputy sheriff of Pacechester. Do you think people will look at this, since you are seen as the person that's supposed to uphold the law? Do you think that residents will see this and think to themselves that, okay, the deputy sheriff is not following at least this one law? Does it mean that I, as just someone who's just a resident, doesn't have to follow any other laws also?
Well, this is a law that kind of flies in the face of something that had already been overturned by our country at the national level back in the 20s. So I don't see why we're enforcing laws that have already been repealed at the national level ages ago.
So with you distributing alcohol in your department, will you guys arrest anyone who was also distributing alcohol illegally?
No, I do not believe in this law, and I will not uphold it. If they see fit to remove me from my office, that is what they're going to have.
Clearly, you have a very strong belief that prohibition is wrong. How far are you willing to go with essentially this protest? Are you willing to go to prison for this?
I believe I will, and I believe I am prepared for that, because this is something, it's not just prohibition, this is many things. Something that people find distasteful, even if it does not necessarily affect them personally, should not be able to be made illegal. There are plenty of people who drink responsibly. The main problem that this town was having was that teenagers were drinking, which is illegal in the first place. They're not ready for it. It's just something that they can't really compartmentalize. They're driving around, they're drinking. It's unsafe in all quarters.
What would you say to anyone who say that it's unfair that you're not willing to uphold this law despite the fact that there was a referendum on this, and it wasn't like politicians voted upon this, it was actual residents who said they wanted the ban. So what do you say to the majority of Pacechester in regards to this?
Again, it was the majority, but I believe that majority was very, very narrow in its margin of success. And it comes down to this. If you have a room full of 10 people and 6 people think that, say, eating meat is wrong, they're vegans, and 4 people, that's just not their dietary choice, should we then force them to consume food that they find, is not agreeable with them? The same could be said of alcohol. I enjoy a drink in my house at the end of the day. It doesn't hurt anyone. It's not causing a fuss. The same could be said of almost everyone else who goes out drinking. It's just the few outliers who cause problems and get into accidents and cause a ruckus. And I don't think it's fair that, the majority of people who can drink responsibly are being judged on the merits or the actions of a few.
However, that was not the only controversy as it relates to Pacechester Liberty. The group was also investigated by the ACLU and faced backlash for not disclosing its donors. I sat down with Pacechester Liberty's Keyshawn Dupuis to discuss a plethora of topics. Of course, the big news today was in regards to the ban and you guys' reaction to it. However, another story was the recent news that you guys are being investigated. You guys are being investigated by the ACLU. Regardless of what the results will be, do you think this investigation sets a black mark on you guys' reputation?
I wouldn't necessarily say a black mark. I will definitely say that it's natural human nature to be curious about what it's about, and being that is natural, we hope that everyone in the community feels comfortable coming to us and asking us questions. One of the main reasons why in the past we didn't outright do and respond to things is because there were certain times we did not feel like it directly affected us, such as when the incident with the mayor's office occurred. At first it didn't come out that it was a DUI, and by the time that it did, we were already working on our partnership. With Uber. but that was under wraps, so we couldn't really just outright say that. So, not that it's going to be a black mark, but we do feel like there will be some hesitation, which we totally understand, and we just hope that everyone feels comfortable coming to us directly and asking us and getting some clarification as we try to figure out this investigation with AC Elliott.
Among the different organizations in Pacechester, whether it be the Coalition, MPZ, or other organizations, it seems to be that you guys are, at least perception is that you guys are the most quiet one. You guys don't speak out a lot. What will you do to change that from this point forward?
We'll definitely be a lot more active. We encourage everyone to follow our Twitter and Instagram, TCPL Team 2017. We find it important to not just react. We like to make sure that everyone's thoughts are heard, that we're neutral about things, as well as also protecting and standing for people's rights. So it is a very tough and thin line, which is why we don't react so quickly. And we are aware that some people feel like we did not react at all, which is why we're under investigation for not defending and supporting our mission statement. But we just really do encourage people to let us know this directly and contact us. And we're more than willing to have these interviews and clarify for people, and even just meetings. It doesn't have to be a formal interview.
Up next, we will discuss the MPZ's employees Fight for 15. Later on, we give you more news on the Craig Scott case and our relationship with the mayor's office. I'm now joined by my colleague and Pacechester reporter, Andrew Martinez. Now, Andrew, Pacechester Post was approached by Jasmine Harper, an employee of MPZ, to discuss her displeasure with she and her co-workers' pay. Tell us more about the story.
Well, Quadair, Ms. Harper, who's also a full-time student, said it is disheartening to come to work every day and know her work isn't valued. Due to this, Harper and her fellow employees decided to join the Fight for 15, a social justice movement for workers fighting for fair wages and the right to form a union without retaliation. After we broke the news, MPZ held a news conference on the issue. Little did they know Harper was in the crowd. Here's a 1-minute first-person video shot by Harper as she expressed her disapproval to her employers.
We want 15. Why can't we have living wage? Why won't you pay us living wages?
Employees have children.
We have families.
My coworker can't feed her son.
My wife is pregnant. Fight for 15.
I'm pregnant.
Why won't you pay us? Why are you walking off?
It's my money. I need it now.
We have
Cowards.
to send out our internal email for our employees to give out top time slots and things like that. We will communicate with you.
Don't you want your customers to know?
We've been trying to communicate with you guys for months.
No, you haven't.
So we spontaneously decided to form a
Thank
solo
you for
union.
coming
This was a
today.
spontaneous thing. We woke up this morning and said, you know what? Now's when I want money.
Oh, now she's warmed up.
I'm now joined by Pacechester reporter Sophia Torrio. Now, Sophia, the Craig Scott case seemed to be a never-ending issue in the Pacechester community. The story had many issues that came along with it, including Scott not being charged with a DUI, him not being fired immediately, and the reputation of the mayor's office. But you would like to focus on the Jenna Clark issue.
That's right. Jenna Clark, sister of former Mayor Gabrielle Clark, was in Scott's car consuming alcohol the night he was arrested. Clark, who was underage, brought the alcohol from Ann Pizzetta. We sat down with Morgan Hennessy of Ann Pizzetta to discuss how Clark was able to purchase the alcohol from the store, despite the fact that she's underage.
In our final segment of the night, we would like to discuss our relationship with Mayor Andrade.
Andrade faced criticism from the public for what seemed to be her lack of focusing on important issues. Instead of focusing on the countless scandals that occurred in Pacechester, she focused on issues like potholes, which inspired us to post this. Now here at the Pacechester Post, we just like to have a little fun with the way we give the news. However, Andrade did not find any humor in our post as she banned us from her press conference. We talked with the Pacechester resident Dr. Michelle Pulaski-Belling, who's an expert on media and mass communications research, who said, and I quote, "I would say picking and choosing who is allowed to enter a press conference shows that they're not confident in their ability to communicate with the press. It seems like her office is very similar to the Trump administration," end quote.
Luckily, though, the next week we were invited to her final press conference. While many were ready to ask her about her term as mayor, Mayor Andrade dropped a bombshell on all of us. Andrade announced her intention to run for state senate with a focus on LGBTQ rights, gun control, infrastructure, and community safety. Sophia spoke with Pacechester resident and political science expert Shakira Evans on her opinion of Mayor Andrade's tenure as mayor and her chances of being a successful state senator.
I'm Sophia Torrio of the Pacechester Post, here with Shakira Evans, a resident of Pacechester, to answer a couple of questions regarding the mayor's last press conference. So the mayor just announced her resignation as mayor of Pacechester. How do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty shocking. I think to just announce something that grand at a press conference sort of that casually isn't really the appropriate way to go about doing that.
Do you think that she resigned due to the pressures of the media and of the residents?
I definitely think so. I think that just based on recent events and how she's handled them and how she's failed to do certain things, that this might just be reactionary. So I'm pretty concerned about that.
And according to Mayor Andrade, she's resigned as mayor to take a position in the Senate. How do you think she'll do there?
I think that if you don't fare well as a mayor, you maybe won't fare well in the Senate either. So.
From drunk driving, the bathtub room of alcohol, criminal investigations, angry employees, and an unpopular mayor, news in Pacechester seems to never end. We hope to see you all 2 months from now for another news recap.
I'm Sophia Torrio.
I am Andrew Martinez.
And I'm Cordero Ray, signing off.